How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. Welcome to DeckHD, my channel all about the Steam Deck. Right now on my Steam Deck, I'm still making my way through Conscript. Again, if you're into survival horror, you're into older Resident Evil titles, I cannot recommend this game enough. It's a World War I inspired survival horror game. I know I don't review games at all really on either of my channels, but man, the survival horror indie scene has really been exploding this year between this and Crow Country. If you're looking for two recommendations of cheap survival horror games, there you go. You're covered at this point. Before I jump into it, I am at 49,000 subscribers. I would love to hit 50 by the end of the month. If you're new here or you've been here for a while, help me out by subscribing. And if you're feeling extra generous, set your notifications to all because that really helps. Anyway, in today's video, I only have two stories to cover, but it's because they're big stories. The first one is that EA, the people we bully and beat down on here on the channel constantly, have actually made a really good move related to the Steam Deck and their abysmal launcher. And the second news story is that for LCD Steam Deck owners out there who are looking into the DeckHD but were kind of scared off by a certain thing you have to do when you install it, you're going to want to actually maybe upgrade to this screen because Valve is fully supporting it going forward. Anyway, let's get into the first news story here, which is all about EA. So one of their biggest games this year is Dragon Age the Veilguard, which I'm going to be honest, that first trailer they played, I'm pretty sure at the Xbox event I was at in LA, it was either that or Summer Game Fest, that turned me off to the game completely. I'm not excited about this game at all. I'm not a huge Dragon Age fan to begin with. I played the first one a little bit with my friends back when I was in high school. I heard Dragon Age 2 was terrible when it came out. And then Inquisition, it was a launch title for the PlayStation 4, so I picked it up. I probably got like 3 hours into it before I bailed out. So I was never really the target for this franchise in the first place, but everything I'm seeing so far has not really gotten me excited. But I read this new tweet from the developers, BioWare, where they said, hey, this game is going to be natively launched on Steam. And I was like, what does that mean? So I clicked a little deeper and read into it, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but you will not require the EA Play app if you buy this game on Steam, which is amazing for Steam Deck users because that is the bane of our existence. If you didn't know this, I don't know how you don't, but I'll just explain it really quick just in case. The EA launcher is extra bad compared to all the other launchers on the Steam Deck because A, it updates all the time, and when it updates, it generally breaks every game that uses it. So you download a patch on Steam, which happens automatically. You boot up an old ass game like Burnout Paradise Remastered or, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered, a game that should not have a launcher in the first place. And then you're like, oh, it's broken. So then it gets fixed. And then you download the game, you start it up, you play a little bit, you jump on a plane, you have no Wi-Fi, and then you realize that the thing needs to be connected to the internet to launch a game. So unless you launch the game, got to the start screen, and put your Steam Deck in sleep mode before your flight, you're SOL on playing any of those old games. So like, not only is it bad because it's a DRM step that's unnecessary in the first place, the way it works is actively detrimental to enjoying playing these games on your Steam Deck that you paid real money for, which sucks. So this is kind of like a vibe shift in terms of how they're doing things because it really didn't seem like they were listening, because people like me who have a Steam Deck YouTube channel have been complaining about this forever and never getting a response from EA. But I think the situation here is that they are reading the tea leaves in the environment surrounding Dragon Age the Veilguard, and they're saying, oh man, this game is fighting an uphill battle. The reception to the launch trailer, and they're saying, oh man, this game is fighting an uphill battle already. It's the first BioWare game since the Mass Effect Legendary Collection, which is crazy that it's been that long. And even if you want to go back to an original game, it's the first game since Mass Effect Andromeda and Anthem. So they've been on like a little bit of a downturn for a while now. They're saying people are not excited about the reveal trailer. So we got to pull out all the stops and actually do what our customers want for once, because for some reason, that's what they don't want to do in the first place. They don't want to do what their customers want, and they're making it so you don't need a launcher to play Dragon Age the Veilguard. And they've heavily hinted that it's going to be verified for the Steam Deck when it comes out, which is great. I don't want to praise them too much though, because obviously we need to wait and see what happens with future releases from EA. It would be so ass if they release this game without the launcher just because they wanted to encourage people to buy it, and then going forward with something like the next Battlefield or, any of their EA originals, the next Need for Speed, the next WRC game, the next PGA Tour game, X, Y, and Z, all of those require a launcher because they know people will buy them anyway when they come out. As long as the game is good, they'll deal with the launcher. I don't want that going forward, right? Like we're seeing the same thing over at Ubisoft where the Rogue Prince of Persia, which is made by the developers of Dead Cells, that game doesn't require a Ubisoft launcher right now while it's in early access, but they're making it seem like once it comes out of early access, because of the way Ubisoft operates, they're going to add in the Uplay experience and ruin the game for everyone who plays on the Steam Deck, which sucks. So yeah, going forward, I like these situations where these companies actually listen to their customers and don't require a launcher to work on the Steam Deck. But until we get at least 2 or 3 games in a row from either of them, Ubisoft or EA, I'm not going to say they're good or safe, right? Like if they're just doing it because they don't think people are going to buy the game, and then going forward, they do require the launcher for games that I want to play, that's going to really be a shitty situation, and arguably will make them look worse to me in the long run as a consumer of EA games. Like, I think this should just be the standard going forward, and it's something that they need to put out an announcement about. Be like, look, we're laying it all out here. This was our PC strategy before. We had the launcher that was required that absolutely sucks. Going forward, if you buy our games on PC through a storefront like Steam or the Epic Game Store, if you're like one of 5 people who actually buy games on there, you will not need to use the EA launcher to play that game. We're good. We're going forward. We're actually going to listen to our consumers and make them happy. That's what I need to hear from EA. Until I hear that, I'm not shoveling any more praise their way, but I got to point out when they do cool stuff, and just objectively speaking, as a Steam Deck gamer, this was a legitimately cool move on their part. Anyway, that brings us to the second news story here, which is all about this awesome upgrade you can do to your Steam Deck LCD that'll bring it a little bit closer and actually give it a little bit of an edge over the Steam Deck OLED. If you haven't heard of DeckHD before, basically it's a $99 attachment upgrade type thing for your Steam Deck where you can buy a new screen that you install yourself, and the real benefit of it is even though it's not OLED, it looks better than the screen that you get out of the box with the launch Steam Deck, because people have complained about that since the Steam Deck came out in the first place. It's just not great at color reproduction, and it's a low res screen at 800p, so it's like got 2 knocks against it. And the second cool thing about the DeckHD screen is that it's 1900 by 1200p. It still retains that 16 by 10 aspect ratio, but you're basically getting a 1080p screen, which at the 7 or 8 inch size that the Steam Deck is, looks really crisp and clear, especially with those better colors. And I guess the third cool thing about this screen is that it's $99, which is actually pretty cheap compared to a lot of the other Steam Deck accessories or upgrades out there. Like, I know you all complained about colored controllers prices, charging $60 for the Game Boy buttons. Get it like $40 more for a new screen that's 1080p for your Steam Deck honestly seems like a pretty good deal. I don't know though. I always think things are a good deal, and then I get flamed in the comments for it. So we'll see how this one goes. But there's always been one big caveat with the DeckHD screen if people chose to do this upgrade, and that is that once you install it in your Steam Deck, you basically have to reflash it every time they release an update for the Steam Deck, which, if you didn't know, if you haven't been around in the Steam Deck ecosystem for a while like I have, they release new updates all the time. Like, especially if you're on the beta profile, you're basically getting new updates every 1 to 2 weeks. So the idea of installing a 1080p screen into your console and then having to reflash your operating system every single time you do that obviously is a huge roadblock in the way of getting people excited about doing this upgrade when they don't want to just get a Steam Deck OLED. But thanks to some digging around in recent update files on the back end of Steam, people were able to see that Valve is acknowledging not only the DeckHD, but they're also writing out that in the future they're going to include support for people who have the DeckHD. They've named it and everything in the code of the latest Steam Deck updates, which would be really good, because if they fully natively support the DeckHD, that means when they put out an update, you won't have to reflash your operating system like you do now. This is something that Valve definitely needs to be commended for, because they're not making money on the DeckHD screen. Like, this is a third-party mod, and it's just another step in the direction of them being really cool about modding the Steam Deck. I know it was weird before the thing came out and they put out that video with the top-down angle where they showed how to take it apart from completed to basically all the parts laid out in front of you. They said they don't recommend it, but when people started getting their Steam Decks, then upgrading the SSD like I did, and they started frying their Steam Decks, Valve replaced them even though they weren't covered by warranty. People who have done even crazier things have gotten their Steam Decks replaced even though they're out of warranty, and now they're taking it a full step further by supporting this third-party mod that they have no hand in making, which again is just a really cool thing of them to do. This is definitely something that if I didn't have the Steam Deck OLED, with knowing all of this new information, I would be pretty gung-ho about picking one of these screens up and replacing the screen in my Steam Deck LCD, mainly because at launch 800p seemed like the sweet spot for the Steam Deck, and then very quickly after that it seemed like it might be too much for the Steam Deck's smaller chip to push like graphics to. But as time has gone on, Valve has massively improved Proton and the graphics drivers that the Steam Deck APU uses. And like now, it seems like every game that comes out, at the very least, will run at a pretty much rock solid 30 FPS. So going up from 800p to 1200p, it seems like a pretty big jump. But as someone who's been using the ROG Ally X, I know the Z1 Extreme is a little bit more powerful than what we have in the Steam Deck. It does a good job with a lot of the games I playing at 1080p because it has a 1080p screen. So I'd feel pretty safe knowing that the Steam Deck would be able to support that screen. But knowing that the screen is bigger than 800p, you could basically use the built-in functionality of SteamOS to drop the resolution back down to 800p, and it wouldn't really cause any problems for you. Like, yeah, it might be a little bit grainier, but I'd imagine that it'll just look like the screen does on a normal Steam Deck, so you wouldn't really notice because you've been playing at an 800p screen since you got your original Steam Deck, right? Like, it would just be going back to normal versus, you know, being a big detriment to how you were playing recently with that 1200p screen. But if you are a potential customer who's planning on doing this, I just want to put out a little PSA that while changing the SSD out to a bigger one in your Steam Deck is pretty dang easy, like you just take off the back basically and swap in a new SSD, pop in a USB with the operating system on it, and then you're good to go. Getting to the screen is a lot bigger of a task. You have to take out pretty much everything to get down to the screen. There's also adhesive on the panel, so like you have to use a heat gun to get that adhesive off, then you have to reseat it with new adhesive with the new screen. So it's not necessarily the easiest task out there, but like if you're a little bit handy, like you know how to change your oil, you know how to upgrade an SSD, you know how to switch out a battery in an iPhone, this really shouldn't be that big of a task. Like I think I could personally do it and feel pretty safe, but yeah, just be forewarned that this isn't a super easy task like doing some other upgrades and mods on the Steam Deck is. But you know, like if you have a Steam Deck, you're probably pretty tech savvy to begin with, so you probably would have a pretty easy time doing this. And I just want to point out again, I'm not sponsored in any way by this. I just think it's a really cool upgrade, and seeing that Valve is officially supporting it makes Valve look even better. So it's a win-win all around. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you in today's video. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.